Your paths crossed with Ron about the same time that Skip Furloughs did at Rollerball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the first time I ever seen Skip, he was in a body cast. He had water tank and fell on him. Yeah. And I ran a little bit at Rollerball that year. And then Ronnie, I think, came the year after that and was quite successful up there. And then I went to Dempseytown, so I missed out on the last year that Rollerball ran. Run most of the time down Dempseytown.
So your paths have now crossed with Ron Blackmer's. When did you first start racing against him?
Yeah, we both had coupes way back when, and we run 100 lappers at State Line, and but I did my thing, Ronnie did his thing, but our mutual friend was Frank Roman. And Frank, he didn't tell me all the secrets, but he told me some of the secrets, you know, and that helped. And what Ronnie really had going for him when he first started was Frank Roman, you know. Not everybody had a mentor like that, you know. And Frank had been around Dickie Bend Speedway, and you know, Frank did the little motor, light car. We all did the heavy car, the big motor. Guess what? It costs money to move weight, you know. And, you know, you look back on it and it's so simple, but it took me 10 years to figure that out, you know. But Frank had that already figured out, and he was able to put Ronnie in that little coupe, and Ronnie was just unbeatable on it for years, you know.
Did that bother you that there was somehow one driver that could be so good for so long?
Everybody has their day. You know, there's a few exceptions where a guy like Tom Dill bursts on the scene, and he's just so much faster than anybody else, and he wins a lot. Ronnie was a steady Eddie. He just kept plugging away with that sportsman car, and when he got in a late model, again, he was pretty good, but he had Frank turning the wrenches on his car. And it took me quite a few years to finally win a late model feature, and way too many years. And I finally won a late model feature. And first person I go to was RJ. And I said, ha, 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 I finally beat you. He said, you didn't beat me, you started ahead of me. Can you believe that? That was Ronnie's philosophy. That's the way he felt. If you were going to beat him, you had to pass him. It was the end of story. It didn't matter that you started ahead of him and beat him, you didn't beat him, you know? And I've never forgot that. And that was Ronnie's philosophy. He was a hell of a competitor. And I was following him one night at State Line, and I had my GTO and he had a Chevelle, and I was faster than he was, but I just couldn't get him, and I couldn't get him, and I couldn't get him. And I think we was running second and third, or maybe first and second, I don't remember. I remember he broke a ball joint coming off a fourth right at the flag stand, and wound up in the fence, and I beat him. Yeah, RJ was tough, and it was, you know, everybody spent a lot of money over the years trying to beat RJ. A lot of people over the years spent a lot of money trying to beat Bobby Schnars. They both had a work ethic on their cars that their cars didn't break at the racetrack very often. And so it's hard to overcome that work ethic, you know. And we worked hard on our race car, but I know Snars worked way harder on his stuff than I did, and RJ worked hard. Well, Frank more than RJ in the beginning, but in the end, it was all RJ.
Yeah, exactly.
It was all RJ.
Did Ronnie have a
Ronnie always had help. Like Calhoun Groves was with Ronnie for years, and they just did everything together. Drank beer together, a lot of it. And you know, me and Ronnie, I was just talking to somebody out there. When we were younger, me and Turner was really close. Then Turner went to the service. Then me and RJ became really close. And me and RJ came from Youngsville High School together. He was a grade behind me, but we did a lot of stuff together in high school. And then he kind of drifted off with Frank, and then they did their rollable stuff. But then when I bought a late model, and Ronnie had a late model, then we got close. And he worked on my stuff, I worked on his stuff. I got him a lot of the parts as years progressed with the quick changes and the big brakes and the big spindles and all the fancy gears and shocks and whatever. I was a dealer for all that stuff, so me and Ronnie become really close with our racing deals, and we worked a lot together. Nobody realized that at the time.
Now you were also, you guys were in the same business. You had a junkyard, Ronnie had a junkyard. Yeah. Did you guys work together in business?
Yeah, it was, he had a big junkyard, I had a little junkyard. And they did their thing, I did my thing, but they would buy a lot of parts from me, then resell them. And but in all them years, we always had a real good relationship. And then we drifted apart. I spent more time with Ted Hackman, which was his partner, and than I did with RJ. And but all the parties and stuff, we were all together. And RJ was a partier, you know. There was if he could, he'd party 8 nights a week, but there's only 7, you know.
So give us your funniest story about Ronnie Blackmer. That moment in time, you're smiling now. You could say, let me tell you, Greg.
Man, I don't know. There's Ronnie was a character, you know. And probably one of the funniest things was Dave Turner was working up in the mountains doing some logging, and he caught a rattlesnake, put it in a bag, and brought it home with him. And Ronnie, deathly afraid of snakes. Garter snake that long, he's way more afraid of that than he is a mad husband, you know. And Turner, RJ's underneath the car and working on it. And Turner just throws that rattlesnake, empties that bag out, that snake starts crawling. I don't know, but what Ronnie's still running. It's just a screaming.
My dad never heard that.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, that was the. And then there's the night that him and Bonnie were drinking at, coming home from Erie, or coming maybe from Wattsburg. I think maybe it was a Wattsburg race. And there was a bar there in Wattsburg. You know, they always stopped at that bar. And for one to drink, you know. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, Bonnie says, I'm going home. He said, oh, you know, stick around a little bit. He said, no, she said, I'm going home. I'm going to take the car and go home. So she went out, unhooked the race car, drove the car home. Well, come closing time, it was a moonlit night. Ronnie just went out, fired up the race car, drove the race car home.
No, he did not.
From Wattsburg.
No.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was RJ. He was so much fun to be around, but you didn't want to be on the bad side of him. Because you got on the bad side of him, he could hate you just like he loved you, you know. If you got on the bad side of him, you had a problem, you know. But I never got on the bad side of him that I know of. Because we always got along.